HR Success Talk has started its journey in 2012 with a vision to bring HR and business leaders together in a form of a community to share knowledge and learn from each other. Starting from a single blog, we reached our first initiative called Forum to give a bigger platform to HR professionals to collaborate with each other. Later, we realized that we need to connect our members in person along with online. Hence, we launched our vertical called HR String Meets, under which we organize HR conferences and meetups where we invite HR and business leaders to talk about best practices in HR and business in different industries. HR String Meets also became a platform for our members to network with each other. We continued and also launched our online assessment vertical, which helps professionals at different levels in their career to learn and get a certificate in a specified field in HR. These assessments and certifications help HR professionals to find jobs or advancement in their career. HR Success Talk has leveraged technology while building the community. Our YouTube channel is focused on providing online videos or diverse different topics for benefits of our members. We can find video study material on topics like talent acquisition, HR journalist, HR analytics, learning and development, labor laws, and many more. During pandemic, we launched our webinar vertical. Again, with the use of the technology, we continued our mission of sharing and learning from each other. We touched thousands of lives across the globe and shared knowledge which was meaningful for our members. In HR Success Talk, we believe in recognizing and appreciating the contribution of HR and business leaders in their field, which is equally important. Hence, we launched our award vertical to provide a platform to professionals to give an opportunity to showcase their contribution and get recognized for it. We believe in fairness and capability. Hence, our jury and selection process is built in such a way that it provides opportunity to those who really deserve it. HR Success Talk has a very good presence on multiple social media platforms and other communication channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Twitter. You can also visit our website www.hrsuccesstalk.com. Success talks by our HR bloggers on trending topics and issues. We are a huge community with global presence in multiple countries and thousands members and growing every month. We provide a platform to our members where they can learn from each other, can share their knowledge, and knowledge for others' benefit, build relationships and networking, and leverage this networking in any way they feel like. We have so many stories where our volunteers have leveraged this platform to find jobs, get new business opportunities, find a mentor to guide. It is up to them how they wish to leverage and use our platform. And guess what? You don't have to pay a fees to be a member or fill any form. You can be a member by click of a button by liking our Facebook, LinkedIn page, or any other social media channel. Simple, isn't it? You must be wondering how we manage all this. Yes, you guessed it right. We have a force of highly talented volunteers who spend 3 to 5 hours every week of their time for this community. We also invest highly on the development of our volunteers and our HR team organize exclusive training sessions for them. Some of them have started as volunteers and today they are playing the leadership role in this community. If you also have the zeal and passion to serve the HR community and time to contribute, you can send your resume at info@hrsuccesstalk.com to be our volunteer. Our talent team will be in touch with you. For us, this is just a beginning. You can either choose to be part of the journey or watch it from a distance. Let's learn and share together.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Greetings from, I'm sorry, it's good evening. So good evening, everyone. Greetings from India. We hope all of you are doing well and keeping yourself safe in this pandemic time. My name is Payal Verma. I am your host for today. I am a volunteer at HR Success Talk, and it's my privilege to do this honor today for all of you. Today, we are here for another interesting topic, which is leadership development, unlocking human potential to thrive in the future of work by our elite panelists. Here is a brief flow of webinar for all of your reference. We will have a live conversation with our panelists who are from across the globe. We will have audience poll questions, which would be on Mentimeter. So this is a tool where you will receive a link on your chat box. You will have to click on the link and you will be taken to the URL of the poll question website. There you can key in your answer and that would be displayed in on our screen. So this is a very important activity and we do always prefer audience poll to hear their opinion. So we request all of you to please participate in it and key in your opinion. After that, we will have Q&A round in the end of the session. Then we will wrap up the session with group photograph. So I'll request all of you to please stay tuned with us till the end of the session, as it's going to be a very insightful webinar, as I can see. Now, before we begin, just a point of caution, we request all of you to please keep yourself on mute. In case you have any query or question to ask with our speakers, you can key in anytime in your chat box. Our speakers will definitely try to answer them during the chat or will take that question in the end towards the Q&A round. One more important information, we would be providing e-certificate for this webinar to all our attendees. For that, you will receive a link in the chat box. It is very important. I'll request all the participants to please fill in your details in that attendance form so that you are eligible and we are able to provide you the certificate. Thank you so much. We will be floating this attendance form during the webinar once and twice to ensure that everyone fills in their details. Now, it's our pleasure to host this webinar. As I said, our webinar is hosted by HR Success Talk, supported by our sponsors, GLA University, Mathura, and Amrita Devi Foundation, Uttarakhand. May I request everyone to please keep yourself on mute? Now, as all of you know that this is a pandemic time and lots of people are migrating from their base locations. So Amrita Devi Foundation is supporting the migrants with the grocery kit. If you wish to be a part of the noble cause, Nishan, can you please mute everyone? So Amrita Devi Foundation is doing this noble cause, and you can contribute your share by donating a small amount, anything starting from 100 rupees to whatever you wish to. The link for the donation is given in the chat box. You can also contact Mamta from Amrita Devi Foundation for further details. So please do your honors. Moving on, this is our first initiative to build our presence in UAE. We are super excited to see the huge presence of our audience across the globe. And I understand that most of you are already aware of HR Success Talk, but some of you might not be knowing it. So here we have brought a small presentation for you to let you know who we are. Let me just share my screen with you. I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So HR Success Talk. HR Success Talk is a community by HR, for HR, and of course for HR. This is a foundation which was created in 2012. We have a following of, and you can say members of 1,25,000 HR professionals and business leaders across the globe registered with us. This is our global presence. So we are not only limited to India now. HR Success Talk has gone global. These are our country heads. Ms. Deepti Korani, who is the country head for India, Ms. Charlotte, who is the country head for UAE, and Ms. Marian Okanzi, country head for Ghana. There is a link in our chat box in case you want to contact us for any of our chapter. We have also launched our state chapters, and this is our privilege that we have launched our first chapter, which is in Kerala. So this is led by Mr. Ranjit KK, who is our president for Kerala chapter. So in case you want to associate with our Kerala chapter, you are please welcome to touch base with us. The reason why we exist is that we provide a platform where HR professionals and business leaders can come together, learn from each other, develop knowledge and relevant skills to maximize their potential. This is our vision. The advantage you get by becoming a member of HR Success Talk is that you get an opportunity to learn and share your own knowledge. You also get an opportunity to be a mentor to someone or find a mentor here. And you also get a networking opportunity, which you can leverage anytime for your own benefits. When we say member, there is no fee which you have to pay. You just have to go on our website or any of our social media page and just click on it and register, subscribe to that. That's it. It's absolutely free of cost. This is the learning ecosystem which HR Success Talk has built over the years. Under this, we have webinars. So far, we have done 28 webinars since April 2020. This is an initiative which was started by HR Success Talk during the pandemic time, so as to approach as many people as we can. We are coming up with our first webinar for our Kerala chapter, which is on 28th of August 2021. We request everyone to please register yourself for this. The topic of this is building an organization culture which acts as a talent magnet. So in case you want to enhance your knowledge on how to build a good organization culture, you are most welcome. The link for the registration is given in the chat. We also have HR forums where most of the HR content can be found. It's a good platform for any of the fresher or a professional. You can get many HR related information there. We have a huge social media presence. We are all over WhatsApp, Facebook, websites. We also have a forum. We are on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as on Twitter. So there are links given on our chat box. So you can subscribe to us on any of the platform and be a member of our community. HR Strings Meet is an initiative which we used to do before the pandemic time. This is an in-person meet and get together where we get an opportunity to meet the professionals and also hold conversations. Because of pandemic, we have kept it on hold. Lastly, when the lockdown was uplifted, we did our last, which was 20th Strings Meet. YouTube's channel is one platform where we have a large number of videos and uploaded of professionals, not only limited to HR domain, but also of other domains, where you can go and access the information related to any particular domain. So this is a very good platform or a channel where you get to learn many basic informations. The link is given in the chat box if you want to visit and access it. Assessment and certification is another property which HR Success Talk has built over the period of time under its ecosystem. So far, we have done 17 online assessments and certifications on various topics, as you can see on the screen. HR Awards is one initiative, I must say, which HR Success Talk has done to I'm sorry, it is to praise the efforts of the community. So here again, it's not only limited to the HR fraternity. We have done our awards. Our last award was done on our last fourth award was done on 24th of July. Here we received global nominations. It was not only limited to India. And our next award are going to be soon in next 6 months, which is going to be on a global platform. So I request everyone to stay tuned and have an eye on this. And if you think that you have the skill or that you qualify or any of your friend qualifies, so do nominate yourself in this process. This is the team behind the last HR awards, which was done. And we are highly grateful. These are all our volunteers who work behind making anything successful. Blogs and websites is another platform. We have around 222 plus blogs on our website. Meet our founder, Mr. Govind Singh Negi. He is the brain behind HR Success Talk. This is the list of, this is the group of our advisors, basically, who keep advising us from time to time and guide us on various initiatives. This is the team of volunteers who work behind all the initiatives. This is our organization structure. This is how we operate. Then we are also, as I said, that we have a pool of volunteers. So HR Success Talk basically works with the volunteer. Now, what it takes in case you want to be a volunteer to HR Success Talk is that it should come straight from heart. You should have a zeal to help each other. You should be able to invest some time and contribute to the community, at least 3 to 5 hours in a week. And you should have an eager to learn or hunger to grow. These are few of the positions which are available with us for volunteership. In case you want to volunteer your services to us, there is a link given in the chat box. Please come and register yourself. There are huge learning opportunities. Besides you provide to this community, you also get equal opportunity to learn from here. That's all about HR Success Talk. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot once again for your patient listening and time. And now moving back to our webinar, our session is, we have a pool of our talented leaders with us today. The session is being moderated by Ms. Charlotte Ibanez. She is the country head for Dubai, HR Success Talk. She is also the legal head compliance and at Godoba Global UAE. We have Ms. Helen Lobo. She is Director Rojcom, based at Kingdom of Bahrain. Ms. Shubha Raj Pillai, Regional Director HR, Middle East, Turkey and Africa, GKF UAE. We have Ms. Nishi Shetty, CEO, Nish Consulting, based at Abu Dhabi, UAE. And we have Mr. Govind Singh Negi, Founder HR Success Talk and Senior Director Talent at 3 Pillar Global. So we welcome you all once again to this session. And now, without wasting any time, I'll now hand it over the session to Charlotte to take it forward. Over to you, Charlotte.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are privileged to officially launch the HR Success Talk UAE chapter with the Middle East webinar 2021. So I hope that you were able to see the 8-part leadership series that we had a month long back. And we welcome all of you. I think we have more than 15 countries in attendance right now. So we are privileged to have our highly esteemed panel to discuss the leadership development, unlocking the human potential to thrive in the future of work. So without further ado, let's dive in to our conversation. So the first question that I would like to address is with Govin. How long are you, anyone can answer this question. So let's start with Govin. How long you are now in your leadership role? And please share briefly your personal leadership story and how you were able to grow from your failures, and what do you think are the traits you possess that you believe you have helped you to become a better leader today?
Hey, Sheila, thank you very much. First of all, you have an awesome background. Uh, so that's great. And thanks for moderating the session. I know this is one of the toughest job, but I know that you are the best person to do so. Coming back to your question, Charlotte, I think in my 21 years of total work experience, there are 12 years, I would say, that I've been on the leadership role completely. And if I talk about my leadership journey, maybe what I want to talk about, because this conversation is going to be on a lot of aspects on leadership, maybe let me talk about the day when I thought that I should be moving to a leadership role, and how do I start that? That was the day when I took a decision to leave one of my organization where I was playing a very senior role, just to make sure that I join an organization where my title might be lower, but I get a lot of opportunity to learn. So in a nutshell, I actually chose to be a smaller fish in a bigger pond than to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And I think that's where the whole leadership started, to keep the learning and development in mind. To your question on failure, I think a leader should always encourage their people to take risk, allow them to fail, but at the same time, learn from those failures. So my journey, and I'm sure everybody on this call, whether you are going to start your journey or you are already on the midway or the higher, you will find a lot of places where you will fail. My only recommendation is to learn from your failure, improve, and move forward. Some of my leadership things which I think works for leaders, and this I have really thought a lot, and this is what we also implement in the current organization I work for. We expect our leaders, and I do follow those traits. One of them is compassion. So we want our leaders, and I myself, to make sure that we are taking care of people well, and also taking steps to make sure that they are good. We want our leaders to be developmental, so that they invest in the development of self, but at the same time, their own people. We want our leaders to be courageous, right? They should be able to take aggressive goals for themselves and drive the team towards that goal, leading that path. We also want the leaders to be responsible, to make sure that they are taking responsibility of not only the success, but the failure as well. And the last and the most important one is the collaboration. We want leaders to understand that different people come from different skill sets, cultures, and we need to make sure that we are bringing everybody together to drive the results we want to achieve.
Thank you, Govind. That is really nuggets of wisdom. And I love the way you illustrated that we can be a small fish in a bigger pond. And I believe that a lot of people can get a lot of insights from what you have said. So remember the CCRC that he mentioned. You have compassion, you have courageous, responsible, and collaboration. Okay. And I love the way he said that we must learn from our failures. So we want to answer this same question. So let's have Nishi to answer the same question.
Hi, Charlotte. Hi, everyone. This is Nishi Shetty from Abu Dhabi. A very, very interesting question. And in my 23 years of HR experience that I started in UAE, 15 years have been in the leadership role. So I'll tell you about my story in the leadership role. Honestly, let me confess, the first 7 years, I was a manager and not a leader. And my journey took from being a manager to a leader, it took me 7 years. So, and all of you can relate to that. So when I joined my first role as a manager, I would say not a leader, it was an organization of 4,000 people in construction sector. It was just 6 weeks after which I had a near fatal road traffic accident. My car turned 3 times while I was coming to the office and I had 7 fractures. My brain is half of your brain size. And I was 4 months in bed, 1 month in ICU. And I was just 6 weeks in the organization. Anyways, I came back, the company supported. Even though I was a new employee for 6 weeks, I got paid for 4 months, even while I was in the hospital. So my first learning as a manager, as a leader was to care for people. It wasn't my fault and it's not the employee's fault most of the times, and the company cared. So when I got back into the organization after 4 months, I was given transport and I was looked after. Then I moved to the second role in a French company, Saint-Gobain. A lot of you would have heard about it. And again, as Govind mentioned, I was a bigger fish in a smaller pond. So I was the head of HR for UAE, and I was in the top management role, reporting to a CEO. I was blessed with a CEO who was a mentor, and he actually taught me what human resources is and what leadership is and what coaching is and what people development is. Because he sent me for trainings and certifications like psychometric assessment, coaching, emotional intelligence, personality type. Until then, I thought I am a great leader, which I was not. I was a manager because I knew the HR processes, systems, etc. I knew policies. I could create, the HR operational work, but not really nurture people. So that was my second learning, that you need to be into people development. And the third opportunity I got was reporting to a CEO who taught me that everything that you do has to be aligned with business. He was an empowering leader, but you can't just be all about yourself, emotions, get too much into personal lives of people. Everything has to be aligned with the business. And the biggest failure that earlier I had was that the HR was not aligned with business. And my biggest learning was, and which was my success, that I aligned myself with business, knowing where business is growing. And then I took a leap of faith 1 year back and started my own organization, Niche Consulting, because I want to take all of my knowledge to the people. So that's my basic leadership journey.
Thank you, Nishi, for that. I love the way you said about having to care for people. So this is the key takeaway that we can get from what you have said. Take care of people. And I love the fact that you were given that opportunity. Not all employers would do that, but they really made the right decision because you did a good job in your role. And then also I love what you said, that as a leader, we need to become a mentor. And we also provide opportunities where we train people, like what happened to you. So I love the distinction between management as a manager and as a leader, because there is really that difference. And we've seen how you've grown from that. So let's ask another highly esteemed panel, Shuba, on her insights on this question.
Charlotte, first of all, a big thank you for inviting me for this forum. I would also like to thank everyone in HR Success Talk for giving me this opportunity. It's wonderful meeting all of you, and to all the esteemed guests who has joined this call. Well, for me, I've been in, I would say, in a leadership role from a very, I would say, young age in my career, whether you call it destiny, whether you call it luck, or whether it was a good or bad decision. But somehow, right from the initial stages of my career, I always got an opportunity to play a leadership role. The turning point in my career, I would say, was my major association with BP Castrol. I joined in, and it was just a roller coaster ride with just 6 months down the lane, where BP worldwide announced its acquisition of Burma Castrol. So it was known as Burma Castrol and not Castrol. And that's when the whole journey began, because it was like getting into, you just get thrown into a pressure cooker and you have to work under pressure. And you have got the opportunity to actually work across a lot of things, creating, something new from scratch. And I think that was the biggest opportunity, because when I look back, I think my biggest takeaways have been working with the best of the leaders that I had during those years. I think the biggest, a transition and transformation that was done across the region, because I was responsible for IMESA, which was India, Middle East, and South Asia. And I think from a leadership perspective, 3 important things that always come into my mind is believe, become, and belong. You need to believe what you're going to do and what's the difference that you're going to make to a lot of people around you, because you're talking about a lot of employees, you're talking about a lot of other stakeholders. You need to bring in something really exciting to the table, because that's something that's really going to excite, and that's something that's really going to make a difference to people. So you need to believe and become what you want to do. And most importantly, belong. I always tell my teams, my peers, you need to be very strong in transforming and believing what you do, because then you can belong to a group of people who actually are willing to take that idea and move forward. So I think that's been my turning point. I always believe that you need to work through a lot of changes are happening around us, and you need to be very curious in learning, picking up the trades fast, because that's very important when you are growing as a leader. And that's something very important even today as a leader, whether you're going to be part of a region, whether you're going to be part of a global, or whether you're going to be part of a forum. You need to pick things, you need to be curious, you need to brush up your skills. I always tell people, don't stop learning. You need to always brush up your skills. That's the most important thing, irrespective of you must have finished your courses, a decade back or 2 decades back, but you still need to learn a lot more, because times are changing and the change is so happening so fast that you need to pick up the traits and get things done. So be curious, be passionate, always strive to make a difference. And I think that's when I strongly believe that you become a great leader, especially if you have the zeal, the passion to make a difference.
Thank you, Shuba, for that. I love what you said, that you were blessed to have been in leadership roles all the time, and starting from scratch. It's really, I guess it's difficult for some people, but you have aced it as a leader. And in transformational leadership, it's important to remember what you have said. Surround yourself with experienced leaders, because from them we can learn a lot, and you did that. And I remember what you have said, the 3 B's, that another takeaway we can get from now: believe, become, and belong. And of course, curious and learning. All discoveries, all breakthroughs throughout history, we have seen a lot of study that says it's a product of curiosity. So never stop being curious. And I love what you have emphasized about learning. Be a student for life. And of course, by having that passion, we will be able to try to make a difference. I love that. And of course, our last but not the least, our panel speaker, Ms. Helen. Helen? Helen, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I did. I lost you for a second. There was a drop in the call.
Okay.
So, can you repeat your last sentence,
Yes.
Charlotte? I lost you.
Yes, I was saying we want to hear about your insights on the same question that we have about your leadership role and your story about your personal leadership.
Right. First of all, Charlotte, thank you for inviting me as part of the panel with HR Success Talk. Thank you to Govin and, of course, my fellow panelists. It's been a wonderful journey with meeting all of you and being part of this event. I like the fact that Govin said a small fish in a big ocean. My journey has been similar. If you look at my career graph, I've never had high positions other than as a director, now being an entrepreneur. But my journey started with amazing organizations back in India, right from Bank of Nova Scotia, Siemens. I worked for very, very large organizations and learned a lot. For the last 25 years that I've been in leadership, 20 of them have been in the HR role. And for me, everyone is a leader. We are all leaders in our own right, right? Whether you are, take for example, a housewife. I mean, she's a leader. She turns a house into a home. She has got no leadership skills, no public school, college, or a business school teaches her the art of time management or budget control or whatever that might be. She's a leader. So a big round of applause to all the women homemakers there who are building homes for us. We have students. Now, students think like it is a misconception that and a limiting belief that they feel that you need to work hard to become a leader. You need to kind of, be able to be ahead of the rat race to be a leader. No, you are a leader already. Workforce. When we come to our workforce, we're talking about, our workforce that work for us for so many years and yet do not rise to a supervisory level. But they are leaders. They help the growth of an organization. And for me, that was my journey. I started in very, very small roles, but I was hungry for learning. And for the last 25 years that I've been in Bahrain, I've worked with the largest organizations. And my best stint, my turning point was working for an offshore bank called Bahrain International Bank. Unfortunately, it went into liquidation, but I had the best opportunity to learn. Although I was in charge of HR, reporting to the general manager, he was extremely, extremely kind, and he always promoted learning. And I got the opportunity to learn in the operations department. I went into the dealing room. I learned about test key operations. I was in charge of transferring millions of dollars across banks. And it was for me, it was a testimony of trust, confidence that he placed in me. And I also learned risk management. And then finally, when the bank got liquidated, I was one of the 2 employees that were retained in helping the Asset Realization Protocol Committee, which was headed by KPMG, to kind of be part of, assist them. I was also reporting as an MLRO to the Central Bank of Bahrain. Now, I could not have done that if I was not hungry for learning. Okay. Now that was my turning point. And then I took all of that learning and that experience that I gained, and I took that leap of faith to become an entrepreneur. Now, when you become an entrepreneur, you're not just responsible for yourself, but you're responsible for a team of people. And when I joined my husband, who had just started his startup, Rochecom, way back in 2009. And I joined him in 2010, and I headed sales and business development. Now, being a lean team, I had no clue about sales, but I took that leap of faith. I said, if I believe in the product, if I believe in what I'm doing, I'm sure I'll be able to bring that passion through and reach out to my clients and do that. And that's exactly what I did. And I realized at that point that the experience that you gain, there's so much within you to explore, and you don't even know that untapped potential that you have within you. So I grew from being sales and development. I now manage 3 organizations. We expanded into 3 different business lines in 2 countries, India and Bahrain, and we made a success of it. And what I give back to my newcomers that join us, teams that join us, is believe in yourself. Ask yourself, why am I doing it? What value am I adding to the organization? What value am I adding to my growth? And instead of telling them what to do, I empower them in wanting to understand from them, what is it that they can bring to the table? Talking about failures, I believe failures, I've learned very, very early in life that success and failures are two parts of the same coin. And coming from the training industry, we do not use failure as a term for our learners or for our employees, because failure has a very negative connotation. We rather look upon as areas for improvement, and we take that forward. Failure, regret, hate, these are strong words and not part of a growth mindset. And I never ever use them in my conversations with my employees or for myself. The self-talk that I have, I don't consider it as a failure. I give myself any task that I take, I give it 100%. And I tell myself, if I've given it 100%, if it did not work, what can I do better? And then I move forward. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you, Helen, for that. I love that you are now an entrepreneur, have grown from your role from managerial level. Now you are having your own company. And I love the way you emphasize it, talking about that everyone is a leader. So whichever role you are playing, whether you are a homemaker, whether you're a student, you are part of the workforce, whether supervisory level or whatever level you are in, we are all leaders. The moment that we can influence, I think that's the key. The moment that we can influence people, we take that role. It's like leading without a title. So I love that. And I love the way you said about when you said about your journey, that learning is very important. So you were not afraid to take that step to study even risk management, and that's a highly technical field, a specialized field, and it's really glad to know that you have armed yourself with that, and that's important for leaders. And talking about untapped potential, so it's important for us to also tap those potentials. Maybe we need to discover ourselves. So people that are listening right now or watching right now may want to know, how can we tap those potentials? And of course, we cannot do that without believing in ourselves. And I love how you summarize it by adding value to people, because all the things that we are doing, training, equipping ourselves and all that, is useless when at the end there's no outcome. And that is adding value to people and empowering them. I love how you summarize that. So each one of our panel right now have different experience, yet we can learn something. And these are the product of years of work and experience. And these are not just knowledge, these are wisdom coming from them. So guys, I hope you have your pen and paper with you. You're writing this down because you will learn a lot more. So let's dive in. There are a lot of questions. So we ask our panel to be brief and concise. And so we go to the next question. And I would like Govin to answer this question, which is, of course, right now, since the pandemic took grip of the workplace, it has turned the workplace upside down. So, as a leader, how do you see beyond today's challenges in order to facilitate transformation?
Charlotte, let me give you some background before I answer this question, because it's important for all the professionals and students and academicians on this call to understand. I work for an IT company, which is basically based out of US, and we have our global presence, and we are growing very, very fast. This pandemic, when this started, we saw a lot of uncertainty in the first wave, at least in India. And that point in time, the more focus was how do we make sure that our business is sustained. At the same time, we are taking care of our people and making sure that they are engaged with us and they feel safe with the organization. I think in both the waves in India, at least in first wave and second wave, my lessons for leadership were different. In first, it was more how do you sustain your business and keep your people engaged. And I would say there are a lot of things which the leadership team did along with myself to make sure that we are giving a circle of safety to our people, keeping our business intact, and also fighting with the uncertainty, because every single day was a different day for us. But I would say the second wave was something which shaped me as a person the most. You can look at the business situations you have dealt it. The situations were different this time. People related concerns, but when the second wave came in India, it came with a lot of fatality of human beings. I was unfortunate. We lost 3 people in India very young. And I can't tell that how much helplessness I felt at that point in time. I consider our organization 3 Global as one of the best people organization, and we take care of our people very, very well. But at the same time, there are certain things which are not in your hand. And you can't just build the medical facility for such a large amount of people getting sick, and the medical infrastructure was not able to support it. But let me tell you that the real test of leadership comes when you are in a tough time. Easy when you have unlimited resources, when you have everything in place, when you have unlimited budget. Like, I think it's easier compared to when you are struggling with a situation like this. I would say that we did a pretty good job, and we are very foresighted. In fact, when organizations were thinking about business uncertainty, we are thinking of growth. During this pandemic, last 6 months, we acquired 3 companies in different countries in Europe, because we are right now growing so fast. And that has come because we have always thought of future in mind. Today, the situation is very, very changed. The way we look at the workforce is different. 3 Pillar, which is my organization, has already announced work from anywhere every single time. Irrespective of COVID and no COVID, we're asking people to work from anywhere. Now, the leadership is all about how can you envision opportunities in the tough time itself. And that's where this is what we did. We envisioned the opportunity, and now we are actually getting the best out of the opportunity we have. We thought that this pandemic will bring bad things for the business, but I think as opposite, it brought good things for at least the IT companies and the IT industry in India. Right now, we are prominently based in Noida in India. If just to give you a context, earlier our talent pool used to be only in Delhi NCR, but today our talent pool is whole India. Like we are actually hiring people across any state in India. And yesterday I was looking at one of the report, and that report says that 60% of my people are actually living outside of Delhi NCR. Even people who are living in Delhi NCR went back to their native places and started work from there. But there are some changes we have to make. Like, I think as a leader, we need to think of the total rewards policy. How do we make sure that we make changes in that? How do we make sure that we are giving a work environment? Because now people are not coming to office. How do we give that work environment to people at home? How do we make sure that people are engaged, they are productive, they're still connected with the organization? I think these are all the things which a leader has to look at, and that's what we are looking at Future Perspective. We are in a very accelerated growth right now, and I think it can only be possible when we have a foresightness.
Thank you, Govind, for that. It's really fascinating to hear your story right now, considering it's tough time, yet you were able as a company to leverage on opportunity. And I love how you share that. It's important that people would see the positive side out of a very seemingly difficult situation. And that's where your leadership is put to a test. And yes, I've been seeing also Three Pillar Global's initiative on LinkedIn, and I've seen how the whole or the entire organization is doing well, taking care of people, making them engaged, making them more connected, and the balancing also of keeping the business intact. And I love what you've mentioned about 3 companies that you have accumulated in Europe. But sadly, we also grieve for those who have experienced loss, for those in the workforce that have lost their loved ones as well. And we can resonate on that. And things that we can pick up from you as a leader is that, of course, we have to leverage an opportunity. We have to take care of people. We have to make them connected. We have to make them engaged. And of course, create that working environment that even though it's really tough, you are trying to make them focus on the goal. And I love that. So let's hear now from Nishi, what are the things that they have been doing since the pandemic took place?
Hi, thank you, Charlotte, for the question. So since pandemic started, I started my own journey of entrepreneurship. People said, oh, it was the wrong time. And people did find a lot of happiness in asking me just 2 months after I started, so how is it going? Do you think you took a right decision? And I said, definitely, this is the time. People need to have more emotional fitness training and coaching than before. And well-being is more talked about now than earlier. So yes, this is the right time. But I knew I would be definitely struggling when it comes to the business part of the business, commercial part of the business, getting clients of the business, and selling the business. But definitely it was the need of the hour. So what I have been doing differently is, previously I used to do a lot of face-to-face trainings and conferences and meeting clients, which actually changed to Zoom calls, sitting in my house and doing all the trainings. How did it help me and how did it help people? I had global access. I am training people in the US, in Costa Rica, in India, and across countries. So that is one good thing that has happened. And how is it helping people? Anybody can reach you. Anybody can reach any technical specialist around the world. So in niche consulting, what we have been doing differently is, I have been going to the community, especially the university students, the teenage students, and the kids who were actually very, very confused of what career to pursue. So I contacted 125 students who had actually, 20 of them had done their computer engineering. Many of them were working. They had finished their studies and they said, ma'am, we want to change our field. We are not happy in this. And the reason was they had never taken a psychometric assessment. So my skills of a psychometric assessor, of personality type trainer, of emotional intelligence trainer, I gave them a free test and said, you know why you're not interested in computer engineering? because your personality type, MBTI report says you are a creative person, you are a big picture person, you're an innovative person. So when you are moving towards a career journey, which is very different from your core personality, you only set yourself up for failure. So this is one of the community projects that I have been doing. I have been training. And then there were 16-year-old teenage students, because they were stranded at home. They were learning, schooling from home. They had suicidal tendencies. And there were many cases who had attempted suicide, brilliant students. And that was another coaching that I was doing to them as a community project, because this is another need of the hour for families, for parents, for students. So I had taken my professional skills, which I was working with the corporates, to the public, to the children, to the millennials who were actually very, very confused. Even though we have more information available, we have more better institutes, we have more specializations, but would you agree with me, there is more confusion amongst the students as to what career to pursue. They enter a degree and then they realize it is a wrong degree. My son is 26 years old. He did his mechanical engineering and now he's doing his master's in business analyst, as a business analyst. After doing his mechanical engineering, he got very good jobs with multinational organization in manufacturing. He said, Mama, listen, I am not interested in engineering. I want to do nothing with the engineering. He was interested more in marketing and sales and business analysis. I said, well, my failure was that I did not get his psychometric done, even though I'm his mom, before he pursued the engineering. So to save the money for the parents and the time for the kids, it is always better to do these assessments and then pursue further. So this has been my journey since last 1.5 years.
Thank you so much, Nishi, for sharing how, despite the pandemic, you are still pursuing what you love to do. And I love that you are adding value not only as a company, but you are personally engaging with the people that are really in need, especially those that are having suicidal tendencies. And this is what is happening right now all over the world, that the mental health or the well-being of our people, of the people around us, need to be taken care of. And I love that you're making that as a niche of your company, that you are looking after the development of young individuals who will become leaders someday. So because our topic is about future of work, and we have to start from the people that are being educated right now, and what you're doing right now is really, really valuable. And so let's have another insight from Helen on the same topic of the pandemic. What are the initiatives that they have right now?
Sorry. Thanks, Charlotte. I think for me, my journey with the pandemic started on a very, very tragic note. I was in Dubai on a two-day business trip, and I couldn't come back to Bahrain because all flights from Dubai into Bahrain had stopped due to COVID cases. And the only opportunity I had, or the only option I had, was to take a detour to India. And I said, okay, let me go and spend some time with my mom and then come back to Bahrain. That was the only way. And this was a godsend trip, because as soon as I landed, and this is a personal story, so bear with me while I share it. When I landed, she was obviously very, very excited. And during the evening, she took ill, and I had to rush her into the hospital, into an ICU. She had severe heart problems. And then that journey took me 1 month to be with her. And finally, I lost her. It was very, very devastating, because it was peak of pandemic. Nobody was able to come. I was handling everything by myself. And it was absolutely, absolutely tragic. But having said that, I realized that I was able to manage, and she did not die of heart problem because she came out of it. She recovered, but she died of patient negligence. She died of gangrene to her foot, and because of the blood flow, that's how she passed away. So I was fighting a hospital, I was fighting a system, I was fighting, the municipal corporators, politicians, and just everybody else that you can think of. But I did it all alone, and I had just 2 caretakers with me. And I got the strength. I'm not sure how, but I fought them all. And, but ultimately, of course, I lost her. And I was stuck in Bombay for 8 months with 2 sets of clothes. And I managed with 2 sets of clothes for 8 months without a whimper. I was just grateful that I was there for my mom. Bet she was breathing her last. And I was just grateful that there are so many people around me that we were helping with the community, that they did not even have a meal or did not have a roof above their head because of all the problems that were going around. But it just tells you that, you need to be grateful for what we have, and we take so much for granted. So having been there for 8 months, I said, what can we do? So we quickly kind of brainstormed with the company, with our team, and we launched the HRM Summit virtual. And we had never, ever been in the virtual space, but we said, you know what, let's do it, if it's now or never. And we pulled off. I spearheaded the India HRM Summit, Pan-India, started from scratch with no idea of the market at all. And we made it a huge success. In fact, we had the South Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry that stepped up and said, we want to co-host the event with you. You're doing such a fantastic job. And we said, why not? And we had the largest event, seamless HRM Summit. And we were competing with some of the biggest names, and we were rated #1 in terms of content, in terms of speakers, and in terms of the seamless journey. And we did not want to rest there. So we then immediately launched the HRM Summit Middle East. Again, virtual 100%. And we had participation from 34 countries from across the globe, right from Switzerland to Africa. And it was a huge, huge, huge success. And now this would not have happened if we did not have a great team, if we did not build the skill sets of people to kind of take it forward whenever there is a downtime. We prepared them for the worst. And we said, if it's not now, let's do it. What are we going to lose? Yeah. And we went ahead with it. And once the 2 summits were over, we then said, we changed track and we said, let's focus on technology because that's the way forward. And we launched under the stewardship of our CEO, my husband and partner in crime. We launched 3 technology platforms. One is Bright HCM, which is an HR platform on the cloud. And the next one was Bright Meetups. It's a virtual meeting room and an events platform, way better than Zoom, and can host multiple events in parallel at the same time. So it is soon to be launched. So, we would be very happy to kind of share that with you going forward. And then the third we launched was a Bright Real Estate platform, which is a real estate software for anyone that is managing multiple properties. At the click of a button, they would get so many fantastic analytical reports and be able to save costs. So we were quick to kind of capitalize on the gloom. And the pandemic was not all about gloom and doom. A lot of people were quick to kind of pivot to success, pivot to a different strategy. And that's what we did. We pivoted to technology and we made it a huge success. And now I also launched myself as a coach during this time, because for the last 12 years, I've been a counselor, offering my time and my services to women in India, being part of many, many women groups, helping suicidal cases, like Nishi said, helping people in distress, helping people with marital problems, divorce problems. I've been doing that for 12 years. And I said, let me embark on my journey as a coach, because that was my calling. I wanted to impact many more lives and pandemic gave me a platform to kind of reach out to that many more, helping them to kind of take that next step, to be able to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And that, I think, was the biggest turning point for me personally. And a lot of organizations, a lot of employees were suffering from depression, suffering from suicidal attempts because they lost their jobs. They couldn't, manage their expenses at home. They couldn't, and some were in very, very abusive relationships. So imagine working from home and living with a partner that is abusive. That took a toll on a lot of people. And I was there to help them. I was able to kind of understand what they're going through and be able to make them understand that why is it that they're going through? What is it that they need? Why should they be, how can they question themselves to say, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right relationship? Asking some deep-rooted questions about coming out of this abusive relationship, to be asking questions that make the decisions that are right for them. And I helped so many people, and I'm so proud that I reached out to them. I made them understand that it's not all about others. It starts with you. If you are able to help yourself and your emotional and mental well-being, then everybody around you is impacted. And first you need to impact yourself. And that was the biggest turning point for us in, personally and as an organization. I think we made use of the pandemic, and we continue to, kind of take to technology as a winning game for us. And it has worked for us wonderfully.
Thank you, Helen, for that. It's nice to hear about starting off with gratefulness, and we have to be thankful. And I can resonate with you when you lost your mom, because I lost my brother as well through COVID. But you were able to pivot in this difficult time, not only professionally, because you were able to establish businesses and new systems that you are coming up, new initiatives, new projects in the pipeline. Despite the fact that you have those difficulties, it did not hinder you from achieving your goal. And that's very important as a resilient leader. And we need people that are agile right now. So if we want to develop ourselves as a leader, we need to be agile in this time. And also, I love what you said about coaching and mentoring young women, because that is giving back also to people, giving back to the community, and of course, trying to connect with them personally. I love your journey about that. So at this point in time, I've seen a lot of people are sharing their insights. Keep those opinions coming, keep on typing on the chat box, do that. And now let's go to our poll question. So we'll ask Nishant to flash on the screen our poll question. So we want you to answer the questions. We have 15 countries in attendance right now. So we want to hear your opinion. So what is the most important trait of a leader? So can you type in your answers right now? We are blessed to have people from students and professionals from India, Philippines, Ghana, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Myanmar, Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, and United Kingdom and Vietnam. So guys, we want to hear you. Please keep on typing your answers. What is the most important trait of a leader? And by the way, if you have any questions, just type in your answer in the chat box. Our panel or our panelists will try to answer those questions, especially if it refers to the questions that, or to the answers or the insights that I have been sharing. So we are seeing democratic style, gratitude, teamwork, learning, integrity. Keep it coming, guys. What is the most important trait of a leader? Ability to influence, yes. Resilience, communication. It's important to be a listener. Having a democratic style. I love that. Teamwork, of course. Unbiased. Okay. We have interesting insights. Respect, of course. Listen to your juniors. So, guys, if you have any subordinates or people that are working under you, please listen to them. Courage, of course. Leader who is, maybe he meant mentor. Empathy, of course. Integrity, courage. Govind touched upon on this, courageous leadership. Sympathy, which our panelists are showing in their stories. Care for others. A learner, of course. Keep it coming. Development mindset. Okay. And we will lead by example, of course. Yes. Patience. Compassionate, persevering. Okay, guys, thank you so much for all your insights. And of course, we could not have done it. Thank you, Nishant. So now let's move into our next question. So let's go back to our panel. Since we talk about leadership traits, it's important to talk about leadership skills now. So let me ask this question to Govind. What do you think are the top 3 must-have skills of a leader that is fit for the future of work? And of course, how do you develop them? Since we are talking about developing people, what are the initiatives that you can recommend for leaders to upscale their teams or employees?
Thanks, Charlotte. So first of all, I think the leadership competencies and skills which we have today won't work tomorrow. I can tell you this much. And I'm already seeing this happening on the ground. And I can tell you with the almost 2 years of the pandemic we have already gone through, and the future which I see right now, the workplace and the future, the way people work is entirely going to change. I don't want to comment on that because you have a pretty good context of it in place. But let me tell you from a leadership skills and competency perspective, and some of it I've already seen on the Mentimeter survey which you just did. And I'm telling you entirely from what I think personally and what I've seen, especially in the business world right now. So one of them, and which I think needs a different kind of competency right now, is the people person or people management or compassion, the way you want to say it. But what I'm not saying is the traditional way you have seen people management. Today, people management has taken a different angle and tangent altogether. Like, you have to engage your people, you have to connect with them, but there are many people you might have not met in person. And I'm not talking about pandemic at all. The way the workplaces are going remote, it could be future. Many people are joining your team. You just know them either by a voice or a video, like the way we are doing right now, but you don't know their personality and the characters. That's becoming very, very difficult. I think all the leaders and managers need to take a new lesson on how to manage people remotely. And I don't want to go into deep in, but that's what I think one of them. The second is, I think we need to come out from kind of a limited number of, hours attitude or mindset to a, result oriented and the outcome oriented outlook. Because nowadays, you can start anytime. There are a lot of organizations giving flexibility. You can stop anytime. You can take breaks. You can choose to work from wherever you want to. I think it is important that as a leader, we need to kind of focus more and build an outcome-driven organization as opposed to a time, hierarchy, rules-related approach in our way, the way we work. The third might sound very simple, but many leaders I have seen struggling with this a lot. With this remote working, the world has become virtual. And if you have to connect with people, if you have to make an impact to people, you have to learn new technology. There are so many technologies coming nowadays that helps you to actually connect with your people better. We are leveraging technology right now, of course, but there are many more. Zoom is not the end, right? There are many more tools coming up where you need to learn how to connect with your people. So I think these are the three which I would personally recommend. That might change if you ask the same question after 3 months down the line, because things are changing so fast. Now, the other one you said is, how do I work on and building my own skill and working on it? The one thing which I would say, and I keep saying to a lot of my my colleagues and the people I met, is that the way, let me give you a metaphor for that. So what is more important? Like, what is the base criteria for two people to get divorced? The base criteria for two people to get divorced is they're supposed to be married, right? Similarly, if you really want to improve yourself, you should acknowledge that you need to improve. The problem with many of us is that we don't acknowledge that we need to improve. We think we are done, we know everything, right? The moment you have this sense that you are everything or you know everything, your learning stops. I think the acknowledgement of your improvement area is the first step. And that is what I always believe in. What I do is I read books to make sure that I am getting best out of other people's experience. I go to internet to read a lot of amazing blogs written by people on various stuff. I go to webinars like this, which I'm learning right now a lot of things from our awesome leaders on the call, especially all of them are women. So, and good to know their different aspects. And that's a great learning. I definitely go and participate and interact with people, not outside the webinars also, to understand what kind of problem they are facing and what can I learn from them. So I think this is the way I do the learning. Now, coming back to how can one upskill their team members? And Charlotte, I can tell you from my experience of being the global head for 3Pillar on L&D as well. So this is one of the role I also play. I have teams in different part of the countries. One thing we did in last 2 years, and that has really paid us very well, is that we have stopped pushing people to go to the training programs. In fact, we started with a pull strategy. What does it mean? It means that we don't tell people which training you need to go. We have created a learning environment or learning culture in a way that we just tell people that what are the things, what are the skills, what are the technical skills, which if they learn, will help them to grow in their professional life. And here are the various resources available for you to leverage if you want to. This has helped us a lot, and I think this will help all the leaders to upskill their team member. What we forget is actually, we always try to play the role of the mentor, like, do this training, do that training, do this training, do that training. And I see we have a lot of coaches on this panel, and I think let me take from them, because the coaches actually give you a direction, but actually get suggestions from you. And that's what I think the leaders has to be coaches. What I'm not saying is being a mentor is bad. I think you need to be a mentor when you need to be a mentor. That's fine. But I think coaching is the one which the leaders need to do, because that's the way you will be able to encourage your team member, take their buy-in to develop themselves, as opposed to saying, hey, participate in this program. I'm telling you, if you're going to tell them participate in this training, they might tell you if you connect with their KRA and the performance review, but they will not do it the wholehearted the way they should be. So I think this is what, as a leader, we should know to do to upskill our team members and make them future ready.
Thank you, Govin. And I love what you said about the skills that we need to take care of. So remember, guys, POT, he mentioned. P for people management. So we have to learn how to manage people remotely, because the connection, the engagement is different. He mentioned about, be outcome oriented, outcome driven outlook that we have to have, because as we know, leadership is not about showmanship. Okay, it's not about showing what we are good at. It's more of being able to drive people to bring results to the organization and to people. And third, he mentioned about T, technology, leveraging on technology. And he did mention that Zoom is not the only system that we have. So maybe you need to try out the one that was mentioned by Helen. It's not Zoom. So try it out. And of course, he said that in order for us to do this, we must acknowledge first that we must improve. So guys, never say that you know everything, because that's impossible. We can never know everything. So let's continue to learn, be a student for life. So there are many students in the right now watching us. So be like them. Continue to learn, even if we are now at this stage in our life. And of course, I love what you mentioned about when you are upscaling people, you have this pull strategy and building that culture. So it's important that when you nurture that culture already, of course, it's up to the people to know, just provide the tools that they need. They will be able to do their own learning at their own pace the moment you build the culture. I love that. So since we are talking about skills, upskilling ourselves, of course, let's now dive into growth, because we are talking about the development, leadership development, our development as a person as well. So I want to hear from Nishi. So as a leader, how do you recognize and nurture the skills of those around you? Why is growth mindset crucial in our current work climate?
A very interesting question, Charlotte. So how do we recognize the skills? Simple, isn't it? It's the results that tell us who has what kind of skills. So for example, let's talk about the performance skills. Now, here we are talking about leadership or skills with reference to a business. Okay, so everything is about the business. So even if for a second we start thinking about me, my skills, everything has to be in context with the business. So in terms of the skill number one, which is the performance, the results, how do we find out is the results that the person produces, the scorecard that they have, the objectives, the deadlines they are meeting. And that is the first thing. And that is how people rise to the level of manager and then the lead. Second one is social skills, the interactive skills, the people skills. And how do you recognize that skills? You just recognize that skills, it seems very imminent, isn't it? We come to know from 360 feedback, some people have far more conflicts than the other people, because some people are very people's people. And that social skill is very, very important, not only in any job, but definitely for a leader. The third one is the growth mindset. Now, how do you find out and recognize a person has a growth mindset? Now, if a person is taking a lot of initiatives at his work, if a person is doing a lot of innovations, simplifying the work, the initiative doesn't mean he has to introduce a new product or create a new business line. Even at a worker level or a junior level, people can just simplify the process, automate the processes. So this is the third skill, which is the growth mindset, and that is how you recognize skills. Competency mapping is a very, very simple tool to identify where you are right now and what is the gap to go to the next level. Now, how do you nurture these skills? For me, the nurturing the skills is a person has to know what is the next skill he requires. If you just tell a person, okay, you need to work upon your, let's say, computer skills, IT skills, he would like to be in the comfort zone. He wouldn't recognize the need. However, if you show him his scorecard, his career progression card, and if he sees that this is the next level where I could go up to if I attain skill number 1, 2, 3, 4. So he knows the gaps. So unless we show the career progression to a person, he will not be able to identify the gaps and he will not be working upon that. So that's how you nurture the skill is pull that person out of the comfort zone and put him to cross-functional projects. In my last organization where I was working, cross-functional projects gave a lot of success to people's growth. So one of the projects that I was part of, being in HR, I was given a project to drive the sales of one of the products of the business. Now, I was actually absolutely worried. I was shocked. How am I going to do it? But the team had one person from sales, one from marketing, one from supply chain, finance, and myself. So as a team, we went to the customer, we met the customer, we saw the warehouse, we saw that our products were not in the front of the warehouse. And then we went into the showroom. I provided a training to the customer on personality type, and that got us engaged. And that boosted the sales of that particular product line. So when you have a cross-functional team, you nurture the skills far better than just allowing them to do what they're doing. The second one is the mentoring program. Every person needs to have a go-to mentor. So in a mentoring program, what you do is you have a group of people who are the leaders and who are people's people, and then you assign these leaders as a mentor to the talents in the organization. Not every person has a mentor, but you identify the talent and you assign a mentor to that. And in the corporates, more than the coaching program, mentoring program is more popular because you don't need any coaching skills for that. So nurturing is something which every leader should have: coaching, nurturing, and mentoring. And then the third part of the question is growth mindset. Now, why do we need the growth mindset? Now, let's think of the basic question. There is a business, right? Business is created for growth, right? Now, the people in the business also need to grow along with the business. Otherwise, either the business will be redundant or the person will be redundant. So business and the people need to grow. They have to have a growth mindset because economy is tighter. There is more availability of the people. The need of the industry is changing. So if we don't nurture our skills, our everyday knowledge, we will not grow, and the business will not grow, and there will be a time when people will be made redundant. In Middle East, it's a trading place. So there are large conglomerates in UAE like Al Fataims and Al Ghurairs and Al Thayer. These organizations may not have a manufacturing setup, but they are actually one of the largest conglomerates because they're trading. And people need people today who have all-round skills. The specialized part is very much limited to certain roles, but we require people who have different level of skills. Nobody's looking for a person who's sitting with a cup of coffee as a leader. Yeah, they want people who can go to the workers, find out what their needs are, and then move on. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Nishi. And I believe that a lot of people are learning from this. So RSG, results, must be connected with business. And of course, we need to develop social and interactive skills. And of course, G for the growth mindset, that it's not only the people who should have a growth mindset, but of course, the business as well. So when we do this with our people, she mentioned about showing the gap, show the progression, and of course, allow them to undertake cross-functional projects. And I love that because not everyone is doing that right now. So maybe we need to implement those in our organization if it is really relevant for our business. So allow them to have some cross-functional projects. So now we are interested to learn from Shubha. What experience has best shaped you as a leader, and who has been the biggest influence in your life?
Well, I think in terms of experience, I think I shaped myself as a leader when I actually started closely working on with BP Castrol. It was one of the most magnanimous, huge project. And as part of this, given that I had just joined the company and I was just 6 months down the lane when this transition was happening, for the management in UK to have faith and also, make me responsible enough to manage the entire transition across the IMESA region, I think was very good. It also gave me a lot of opportunity in terms of shaping myself as a leader, exposure to a lot of coaching technologies, exposure to a lot of, tools that was required. And I would also attribute this to one of the leaders I closely worked with back then. And I still remember, and it's something that I really practice and follow. He always told one thing: how do you define who is a manager and who is a leader? A manager is someone who manages men, of course, even women too, tactfully. And that's someone who plays a role of a manager, all right? But when it comes to a leader is someone who empowers and influences people around. And if you go back to even your, school days or college days, who are those teachers you always remember? You remember those who actually inspired you. You remember those who actually added value to what you wanted to do, or you actually achieved some learning. So as a leader, it's very important to empower and to inspire people around you. And I think this is something that actually has sat with me or been with me for quite some time, and something that I carry with me even, in different aspects of my career. And when I joined my current employer, GFK, I think this was another opportunity that actually shaped me, because it was a learning that I had already imbibed from somewhere else, but an opportunity to implement it in a much different scale within the region. And as you know, that things change. There's a lot of transition happening. What you may know previously may not be something that is useful now. And as some of you have said, when I was looking at the poll, some points which I really liked, and that is something as a trait of a leader that you need to look at, is ability to influence, listening, a very important skill as a leader, empathy, and most important is listen to your juniors. Because when you have to shape a team, when you have to shape an organization, when you have to shape a region, what is important is to understand from every aspect what is that people are looking forward to. Sometimes you might just get the brightest idea from the most junior person in the team. You might get a most influencing idea from maybe a mid-level manager. And that's what you need to look at, to assimilate both of these to actually synergize and take it forward. So as a leader, I think some of these experiences has actually shaped me. And I think working with some of the great leaders I have, be it with my past employers or even be it with my current employers, I think that has actually opened a lot of opportunities in terms of shaping me to who I am today.
For sharing that. And I love the way you said about the differentiation between a manager and a leader, so that many people can be reminded of that. We know this, but we keep on forgetting that as we practice how we as a leader should actually act. So you mentioned about empowering, inspiring, and adding value to people. Without those elements, you are just a manager and you're not a leader. So I love what you said about you pick up on the poll question and mention about collate and synergize. A lot of I'm seeing in the chat box that a lot of people agreed with you. So collate those opinions, those insights, those perspectives from junior people, from middle managers, whoever that you came in contact with. We can learn a lot from them and synergize it. So that you can come up with a very brilliant idea in whatever you are doing. So now I want to hear from Helen. What are the top 3 things that a person aspiring for leadership should do in order to become a great leader? So, because we are having a lot of engagement right now on about developing themselves as a leader. So, can we hear your insights, Helen?
Sure. Charlotte, as a mindset and transformation coach, I would hold back from advising aspiring leaders on what to do. Their mindset is already conditioned in following what they're told to do. And that shift has to come. It's so important to make that conscious effort as leaders. We need to break that leadership pattern. And I have come across a lot of leaders that lead by governing their people. So you need to ask yourself, what kind of mindset are you ready to lead your team with? Is it through lens of serving, where you serve them confidence, strength, empathy, trust, determination, courage? Or are you leading through the lens of ruling, where all you do is govern them with fear, mistrust, lack of empathy, insight of low self-esteem, low self-worth? It's either the my way or the highway. What kind of outcomes would that kind of leadership mindset lead? So if you're leading your team from the role of serving, then obviously you're developing leaders with empowerment. They are more focused, they'll be confident, they'll be very, very loyal to the organization. There'll be a lot of trust that you build within your teams. They'll be committed. They'll be ready to take on challenges. They don't lose focus of their vision and mission. But on the other hand, if you're governing them by ruling, you leave them broken, you leave them defeated, depressed, low self-esteem, self-doubt. They question their self-worth. Now, that's not what you want to be remembered by. So I encourage people, especially leaders, to say, think and ask yourself, what am I bringing to the table? Am I impacting a life? And that's important. As a leader, you need to impact lives as you go. You need to transform lives. We talk about motivation. Motivation is very short-lived. You motivate somebody who's having a low period. But what happens after half an hour? He goes back into the same state of mind that he was. But you transform lives, you transform them for life. And that's a very, very powerful tool I think all leaders should aspire to do when you're leading a team. Lead your teams with a mission to serve. The other thing I would say is very, very strongly is empower your teams. Recognize them, encourage them. Let there be open communication. Allow them to have a voice to speak up. Don't silence their voices. Be an inspiration. Walk your talk. Don't just be leading a team by your status alone. It's not about the number of followers that you have. It's about how many people will walk along with you saying that we are empowered. We learned something. We were impacted. Our lives were impacted. And it's just not on a personal level. When you impact a life, you're impacting a whole family. Every area of his life is impacted when you touch upon one corner of his life. And it could be anything. It could be his health. It could be his wealth. It could be time that he spends with his family. It could be recreation. It could be anything, any area, spirituality, for example. It could be any area of his life. But unless you inspire, you're not transforming a life. And that, I would say, is key for any leader to take that forward. I remember, also another tip I would give is do not emulate somebody. Your leadership style should flow from within you. It should be original. It should be you, so that they'll remember you as somebody that impacted their life. Don't emulate others, because then that's not an original. You're just a second-rated leader. And what kind of values are you bringing to the table? What kind of values are you showcasing as external? Is it integrity? Is it trust? Is it good leadership style? Is it fairness? Is it commitment? What kind of leadership style? What kind of values are you reflecting in your outward leadership? Also, decision making. When you empower them, they make great decisions. If you govern them, you're just thwarted and crippled their sense of ownership. So empower them. Let them make great decisions. Okay. This is what I would advise any aspiring leader. Ask questions, ask why, ask how, ask when. Why should we be doing whatever we are doing, and how are we impacting people's lives? That's very, very, very crucial.
Thank you, Helen, for that. Those insights are really something that we all must continue to work on. I love how you illustrated. What lens are you looking at? So leadership should be looked in different lenses. And you mentioned about serving, about empathy, about trust, about integrity, all these values. When you look at that lens, your leadership style will take a different form. And I love how you mentioned about when you transform a leader, you should not silence their voice. And ask that question, how many people are walking with you? So if you were able to imbue those leadership qualities, then many people will walk with you. And I love how you explained it fully well, that when you impact an area of his life, it will impact the rest of his core being, and it will have a domino effect on his family, maybe professionally, and even in his community. So we are, as a leader, we are when we develop people, when you develop them well, they will also pass the baton to other people, and they will do the same cycle. And the people that they nurture or they develop, I love how you summed it up in that manner. And so right now, guys, we are going to the second poll questions, and we want to hear your opinions through the poll. So we asked Nishan to flash the question on the screen for our second poll question. Does your current organization or leaders provide opportunity to develop leaders? Are they doing that? So right now, okay, in our Mentimeter, it says yes, yes. There are some people that no, oh, and are people that might not be aware. Oh, yes, there are people that are not aware if their leaders are providing development for people to become a leader. Okay, so keep it coming, guys. And we can see that. Oh, it's good to see that majority of organizations and people working in organizations are being developed. So when you become a leader, even if there's no such system in place, so we have yes, 19 votes for yes, and of course there is no. Oh, I am not aware. It's increasing right now. Okay. So, but it's very clear from the poll that many organizations are providing opportunities for people to be developed as leaders. Guys, if we develop people around us as leaders, then we will become a better leader. So don't forget that. So thank you guys for that. And now let's move in to our next question. Now let's have the ladies answer this question, and I would ask Shubha first to answer this question. Since communication is one of the critical skills, we've been hammering on this earlier on soft skills, one of the critical skills that our leaders should have. What advice can you give to people that they can readily implement so that they can hone their communication skills? So I believe many people are in the audience as well, wanted to become a better communicator like you, how to become eloquent. So yes.
Right. I think the first important aspect is not only as budding professionals, but also as, seasoned leaders. The most important thing is to listen. and to listen effectively. This is the most critical skill that is required in an organization. And listening not just from a perspective of hearing, but listening to understand and assimilate what exactly is the issue or the concern that the person has, or what exactly is the project all about. Because when you're talking about communication styles, there are different aspects. It's not just what we communicate or what we talk, but exactly what we have understood to kind of bring that back to the table. And having said that, when I was earlier mentioning about influencing, you cannot influence people around you if you're not a good listener, and if you have not had the ability to understand what exactly are the challenges or the issues that has been around. When we're talking about listening, it's also, as I mentioned, listening to everyone around you. I always tell not only my team, but to my leaders, to my peers and everyone that you need to be like eyes and ears for the organization. And to be like an eyes and ears for the organization, you need to understand what are the concerns people have. When we as leaders are, being part of the management or being part of the people leader, when you're working on anything, you are able to be productive or able to bring out something, good on the table, only if you actually actively listen to what is expected. And when you know what is expected, you can actually work around what is the outcome. Having said that, a lot is also important on your body language, because communication is not just talking. It's the way you carry yourself and the way you articulate your message. So your body language is important. And with the pandemic coming in, the body language is also critically and important when you're on your virtual calls, because that is another challenge that has come upon us, unlike when we were having face-to-face meetings. So to actually carry yourself, articulate yourself, even over a call, is very critical and important. And then I would also say that when you're talking about influencing skills, as fresh hires or as seasoned leaders, talk a lot to different people around you, not only from your function or someone you're comfortable with, but talk to the wider set of audience. When I mentioned that, okay, you need to pick up skills and you need to enhance your learning and you should always be curious. You know what, you pick up a skill, but your colleague next to you does not know what skill you have. Your leader does not know what skill you have, or your manager does not know. Then if you don't create that visibility for yourself, no one will. One thing which is very important is that your career is your career and you sit on the driver's seat for your career. So it's up to you how you influence and how you communicate with people around you and how you create visibility for yourself. Because communication is not just talking, but communication has got different aspects in also creating visibility about yourself across different parameters in the organization. So these are a couple of things that I would like to leave for all of you. And this is a perspective from what I see and what is happening often in the organization, and how you actually need to, kind of work through those parameters to make a difference.
Thank you, Shubha, for sharing that. I love what you said, that we should be an active listener and at the same time engage ourselves to conversations with different people, because we can learn a lot from different perspectives and different insights. And when we influence people, we should become a driver in the driver's seat so that you can take your career to the next level. And we can only do that if we will incorporate these things that you have mentioned in our development as a person and as professional in order for us to progress as a leader. I love that. For the interest of time, we will now dive into the next question that I have for Govind. Since we are talking about developing leaders, and according to a recent study, the number one problem that top executives face today is developing the next generation of leaders. Since we are talking about future of work, of course, a lot of people are mesmerized. What should we do now? The workplace landscape had been different. So, in your capacity, how do you address this issue?
Yeah, Charlotte. So I'll pick from what Helen said, that um, I think leadership is not about the title you hold. It is about the characteristics and the way you behave. So I think you're right that top executives does face a challenge in hiring next level of leadership, but I think it's the case with others as well. Like now the definition of leaders is changing, and very young people are also taking those leadership responsibility in the organization. Um, what we do to build the leadership, and we are very conscious about it. I think if you are in a fast growing company, this is the one area you should always pay attention to. Because if you are growing, you need next layer of leaders to be there to take the load of the growth of the organization. Otherwise, you will break. And that's where I think all the women leaders here on the call who are from talent function knows how critical this is, and organization might not be able to grab their accelerator growth if they don't do this well. What do we do? And I'll go back to the growth mindset, also spoken on this conversation, where I think the first thing is there has to be a mandate, interest by the top leadership towards this particular assignment and project. The other thing is that if I have to advise somebody, I would say, you know, the leaders are those who actually create the next level of leadership. Now I can't say that people don't understand it, because I know people do understand it nowadays. Like long goes are the days when people used to think that it's not okay to, and people were like feeling insecure. I'm sure there might be people like that, but many people actually believes in that, and they want to make sure that they are building the next layer of the leadership. First step is to delegate. Once you identified the people you want to, and I'm not talking about talent function, but I'm talking about what you can do as an individual to build leadership under you, whether you are in a talent function or a business leadership role, or wherever you are. Start delegating stuff. Don't keep everything to yourself. Give opportunities to those people to fail, learn by themselves. Like sometimes we say, you know, learn from my experience, but there are times when you let people learn from their own experience. Let them make their own mistake and learn from it. You mentor them whenever you have to mentor them, right? There could be some occasions say, you know, let me tell you, this is what it has to be done. But there are occasions when you should coach them. Despite the fact you know the answer of the question, despite of the fact you know how this person should behave in this situation, try to not to play a mentor's role and try to play a coach role. And try to take that person through this journey so that the next time this person knows how to find the answer, the direction, and the right way to do the things. Maybe during this journey, he finds his own unique way, which you are also not aware, right? So that's another thing which you should do. And the most important, always have their back. In this journey, they will make mistakes. And if they know that you are there to take care of themselves, then the journey will be faster and they will be ready faster than anybody else. Let them give this kind of environment where they can make those mistakes. So this is what I would do. This is what I do. This is how we build leaders. And that's why every leader in a company is very different. And they have their own perspective. They have their own ways to deal with the situation. But they all follow a very common strategic of very common characteristics of how a leader should look like in an organization. So this is how you can do a common characteristics to a very personalized leadership style.
Thank you, Govin, for your insights that we need to focus on the character as well, and talking about growth mindset. So if we incorporate having a growth mindset, of course, definitely we'll be able to develop more leaders around us. I love what you've mentioned also about delegating to people, because a lot of people, these are as Arun Kumar was saying in the chat box, that these are right points. There are occasions that it's very simple, these things, when we hear it, but when we implement it, it's a different ball game. So I love when you say delegate, because a lot of people are still micromanaging and they don't delegate, they don't entrust their people. I love when you said give opportunity to fail. Do not say, from my own experience, and we often do this, right? It's funny when I'm hearing it, when you're saying it earlier, we often do this, learn from me. So let them discover it, let them have that journey to know it. So there are occasions when you need to mentor, and you have to pull back and become a coach. I love that. And the last point that you have mentioned, always have their back, because I also have this experience when I was younger, that when push comes to shove, then there are some leaders who will just drop your name and put the blame on you. So there's this blame game happening because they don't have your back. So I love that. So it's something that we all need to remember. And so, for the interest of time, for those who still, I've seen a lot of questions being typed on the chat box. You still can do that, and we will try to answer that if we have time. And the same thing with our panelists. There are some questions that they may want to answer, but we'll reserve some time. If there is still time at the end, we can allow you to answer those questions later on. So now let's move into the next question, which is, since this year marks the biggest leadership quality gap because of what happened in the world, okay? Leadership gap in a decade, according to a leadership study. How do we address this? What skills should leaders and HR practitioners need to develop in order to meet these future challenges? So, Nishi, I want to hear your insight on this.
Hi, Charlotte. You're right. This decade has seen the biggest leadership gap than the previous years. Now, there are two things every leader should know, should have, should combine, should merge, which is business and the people transformation. These are the two areas that every leader should have. Every leader should be a people manager. So we used to say there should not be HR managers. Every leader should be their own people managers of their own functions, of their own departments. And then a lot of leaders lose the connect with the business by focusing on their core area. It could be either finance or sales or HR, whatever it is. But they lose that cross-functional macro approach to the business, that their own work and function is actually leading to the business. And in the process, what happens, they actually miss the boat. And because of the too much of focus, they're not looking at the business. As a leader, you cannot do that. So now, talking about these two things, there are two main skills that I think every leader should have. Number one, hiring skills. It is not HR's job to do the hiring for you, dear Mr. Functional Managers. You all need to find your own people, find out their motivation, their values through the value-based interviews, through the competency-based interview. It is not HR jobs, it is a collaborative approach. Now, this is the entry point for an organization, so it is very, very important. Second is developing people, which is people transformation. And that is through the communication and the feedback and the performance management. I'm sorry to really observe that in a lot of organization, performance management is very much restricted to the appraisal process, which is not true. So what helps and what has helped in my previous experiences, regular performance one-to-ones. So 10-minute one-to-one, once a week, once in 15 days, or even once in a month, about the person, 10 minutes about the person, 10 minutes about your feedback, and 10 minutes about the summary. So this really, really helps. And it took the performance really, it uplifted the performance of the people because they were meeting the manager on a very regular basis. And if your leader doesn't have the skills of how to do the one-to-ones, how to actually work with HR to give feedback to the people, do people know there is a coaching, there is a sandwich of giving feedback? There is a feedback sandwich. Not many people do know that. When I'm giving the training, not many people know about it. Do people know how to use emotions in communication? Do people know that communication is a full body sport? So all of these things are very much required by the leader. So business acumen, commercial acumen, plus their people transformation, coaching and nurturing skills are the main areas which I would look at for a leader. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Nishi. I love what you've illustrated, how you have illustrated that we need to collaborate. The functional leaders and HR leaders should collaborate in order for us to face this challenge. So we cannot do it alone. And, you know, the way you have explained it. So we have to have that collaboration. And of course, as we stand today, what best practices can you suggest, Shubha, for us to undertake and implement so that there will become a better leadership?
Thank you, Charlotte. Three things that come on top of my mind. First one is, of course, we've been discussing about it throughout the session, is mentoring. One of the key, I think, best practices is mentoring. And a lot of organization, as some of my fellow panelists mentioned, is that, yes, a lot of organizations are moving towards mentoring. Again, between mentoring and coaching, there is definitely a slight difference. Coaching is more associated when you can train someone, okay? But when it comes to mentoring, you're actually guiding someone, you're actually guiding the person for a bigger responsibility or a role. Now, many a times, and of course, because of my conversation with a lot of people, be it within the organization or also with a lot of other HR fraternity in the network, people often find it very difficult to have mentoring done within the organizations. And this is where I always recommend outside-in approach. When you have mentor, also as an organization, don't assign a mentor who is within the same office vicinity or within the same region. Always assign someone who is somewhere else, simply because of two aspects. One is the person gets an opportunity, that is the mentee gets an opportunity to discuss something on how he needs to grow and nurture himself based on the inputs and guidance from a different leader who may not know him at all. When you don't know him or you don't know her, you're able to add more value and you're able to be more productive than perhaps being biased on certain traits about the person. So this is a very critical aspect when you're talking about mentoring. Second thing, and this is something which again I learned from some of my leaders, is always have a mentor who is not from the organization. Someone you could always catch up over a cup of coffee. And now with the pandemic on, you can still do a virtual coffee, if not a physical, one-on-one session. But someone you are very comfortably talking about how you need to grow as a leader. What is the role of a mentor is very important. Often when people come to me and talk to me about challenges or issues, my first question to them is, what is that you're expecting out of me? Because as a mentor, if I'm going to invest time, I also need to know what is the aspiration of this person and where does he or she try to see himself, because of which my guidance or my input is going to add value. A mentor is also someone where when there is any issues where the mentee faces when talking to any of their colleagues or managing a project, he or she may need some bit of guidance. And that's when a mentor comes in and guides you on how this needs to be done. And that's the reason I often say that there is always a huge difference between coaching and mentoring. Another thing which I also like to add as a best practice is upward feedback tool. This is a very good tool because often and when we talk, like just as one of the panelists, Nishi, was telling about performance management. When we talk about performance management, we are always giving a top to down feedback. An upward feedback tool is always something which is very important that actually supports a leader to grow. And that's the reason this tool is far more effective. And it's also more effective because you're not doing it as a one-on-one discussion, but you would be doing more as a focus group than doing it as one-on-one, where people might be reluctant to share feedback, either which is good, bad, or ugly. And many a times, based on my experience, be it with my past employer or even with the current employer, I have found that this tool is very productive and very effective, because if you are trying to develop someone as a leader, an upward feedback tool is something that will always support the person to understand what's that I need to look at. Earlier, when we started this session, we were talking about, failures. The crux is not the failure. The crux is trying to build yourself based on your strengths and trying to adapt to your strengths further to see how well you can actually work across with the team and people around you. So look at it from that perspective. And most importantly, as I always been talking about, is learning and engagement. And being an HR professional, one very important aspect for me is also the HR learning and engagement. Okay. Often we as HR contribute a lot to other teams, to other businesses. But what we also need to do is add a lot more inputs to our own teams, because technology is changing. Everything around us is changing. The way we are looking at business, the way we are looking at talents, the way we are talking about competencies, everything is changing. And so it's more important to bring our own teams up to scale and up to the standards that we are looking for. And that's the reason I often say that learning and engagement is the most important tool in case you want to succeed and be successful throughout in your life. Thank you. Those are the three things that I
Thank you so much, Shubha. Thank you so much, Shubha, for those best practices in terms of developing leaders and how we can grow as a leader as well. And I love what you said, to become a mentor. Now, for interest of time, I think we are loving this discussion so much, but we lack time right now. So I just want, before we close, I would love to say the definition of leadership development that was mentioned by Mac Lake is that leadership development is an intentional process in which one interacts with an experienced leader, producing transformation in the character and competencies that increase their ability to influence people, outcomes, and culture. And I hope that through this webinar, we hope that you have those takeaways, that we were able to have. We become intentional in our leadership journey. We become an experienced leader, or find an experienced leader that can mentor us or develop us, start to produce those transformation in our character and competencies. And of course, all these things that we are doing, we should have the ability to influence people, outcomes, and culture. This is very important. Now, the last closing statement from our panel, very quickly, maybe a few sentences only. If you can recommend what top 3 books you can recommend on leadership, let's start with Govind.
Yeah, sure. So I have, I don't know, I have like 4 books in front of me, which I always refer to. So the first one is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This I will definitely recommend. Extreme Ownership. This is a great book for leaders if you really want to learn from some experience from US Navy. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. This is another good book if you are building a team, and that's what I think the leaders should. And that's one, the last one, The Leaders Eat Last. Awesome book if you really want to have extreme ownership. So So these are the 4 I would recommend to anybody.
And we will share it with you. We will put that in the chat box as well, those books, so that you can have that as a key takeaway in this webinar. Now let's hear from Helen.
Yes, Charlotte, I think my favorites, all-time favorites are Leadership and the 1-Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. It's an amazing, amazing read for aspiring leaders because it teaches you very, very valuable lessons on situational leadership on strategy. So that's a great read for anyone who wants to learn. The other one is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. This is by Marshall Goldsmith. And this is a book about how successful people become even more successful and how their habits that have brought them success are now delaying their progress. But they are succeeding in spite of them, not because of them. It teaches you how success should never be taken for granted. And then in order to continue to be successful, you need to keep at it. And my third favorite book of all time is Leading Change by John P. Cotter. This book is an amazing read on managing change through leadership. It identifies 8 steps of process that every company must go through to achieve its goal and how people fail. So these are my top 3. But my request to anyone is keep learning, keep reading anything and everything. It doesn't have to be only leadership. It doesn't have to be focused only on your role. Just read anything that comes your way because it helps you get a better perspective, gives you a diverse knowledge on various areas of business. And I think that's a great learning for anyone and everyone.
Thank you, Helen. A lot of people are agreeing. Leading Change is a good book. I've seen that in the chat. So, guys, share those books in the chat box so that our audience can pick that up. Thank you, Helen, and I believe Helen is also working on a book advertisement. So watch out for her book as well. So let's now move into Shubha.
Well, I didn't carry the books with me here, but I have 3 interesting books I would like to recommend. One is The Power of Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. I think as leader, one important aspect is also managing your emotional intelligence because you come across a lot of situations and circumstances, and as a leader, you need to stand strong. You also get thrown into a lot of shit. So you really need to gather and be strong with your emotional intelligence and how you actually manage that. And I think pandemic has taught that a lot. So that's a good read for all of them. Leadership Capital Index by Dave Ulrich. Since I've been talking about a lot of transformation and change happening, and the way the companies are looking today, everything is looked from an analytical lens. So there's a huge transformation that is also happening between human capital. And this is a good read to understand what are those changes and transitions happening from the HR guru itself. And the last and the favorite one is Start with a Why by Simon Sinek. It's a very good, interesting read. And it's also something that resonates with me because I always believe that begin with the end in the mind. Because if you know what you want, and if you ask why and the right questions, you will always be able to channelize your energy and your vision where you want to be. And this will also support you not only throughout your career, but also in your personal lives. And it'll also help you grow. So this is the 3 books that I would like to leave this audience with.
Thank you, Shubha, for that. I believe most of our panels are really a bookworm. You can see that in the selection of books that they have, and they are really HR practitioners. Dave Ulrich, Simon Sinek. These are the people that you normally read. The books that they have. So let's go to Nishi.
I also don't have the hard copies of the books with me, but I would like to recommend these 3 books, which are all-time favorites. One of them is the same as what Shubha has mentioned, Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Another one is Principle-Based Leadership by Dr. Stephen Covey. And the third is The Values Factor by Dr. John DeMartini. I have chosen all of these 3 books because as a leader, there is no there's not so much of theory about a leader as much as the practice. And knowing people is the most important for a leader. So especially the book of Values Factor, a leader can understand what motivates a person, what are his basic core values, and there are interviews that are done. There is hiring that are done, which is called value-based hiring. Like we used to talk about competency-based hiring. There is value-based hiring. Once we know what motivates a person, we can retain a person, and the conflicts don't arise. So these 3 books are definitely very, very good for a leader, such that he can develop on people's area and emotional intelligence for himself.
Thank you, Nishi, for that. So we wrap up this Middle East webinar 2021 with congratulations to all our highly esteemed panelists. They did a very good job in, educating us this afternoon. And we would like to thank them. We can thank them enough on behalf of the HR Success Talk. So to close this, John Maxwell, one of the leadership gurus, says the single biggest way to impact an organization is to focus on leadership development. So with that thought, I will leave you with that. Thank you for being a nice audience. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to all our sponsors.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Govind, and all the fellow panel speakers. It was really nice meeting all of you here, and a wonderful audience.
Yeah, I would request everyone to please stay tuned. The show is not yet over. I request Govind to please give a vote of thanks to everyone, and then we will wrap up the session with a group photograph.
Yeah, I can be quick. I can't thank everybody enough. First, for telling me the names of the awesome books they were reading. So that's another one to in the read list. And to start with, Charlotte, for the awesome moderation and the leadership. And congratulations for starting the UAE chapter. And I'm sure this is not the all you want. There are many other webinars in pipeline which can help our audience in UAE. And also to Shubha, Nishi, and Helen for actually giving your time and sharing your experiences and your learnings with all the audience which we have across the globe. When Charlotte was taking the name of the countries from where we have audience, I was amazed to see that how the world has come together in a very small conversation and listening to all those awesome woman leadership here. So thank you, everybody, and all the team who has made this happen. I know this is not just a 1.5 to 2 hours session, but a lot of work has gone behind it, and the leadership series which Charlotte has produced before this webinar. So thank you, everybody, and thanks to the participants as well to come and listen and spend their Saturdays with us. So thank you very much. Over to you, Pam.
Thank you, Govind. I request everyone to please switch on their cameras and request Drishti to please take a snapshot.
Thank you, bye. Cheers, everyone. I request everyone to please switch on their cameras. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being so patient and nice audience. With this, we wrap up formally our session now, and see you and take care until we meet next. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Payal. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice day ahead.